Hey guys, it's Coach Tim here from Mad Training with the first episode of Managing the Madness, and today I am here with the wonderful Anne Grieshop. How are you, Anne?
Hi, good afternoon, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
We see each other all the time.
All the time. This is like my second home here.
I know. So we are here to talk about being a sports parent, which you are.
I've done that for a long time, yeah.
You've definitely done that. That's something that we know a lot about. So I think what I want to do first is kind of give everybody a sense of background on who you are, kind of how you came to be, I guess, here in Austin, Cedar Park area. Give me some information on the kiddos, the family, kind of the whole gamut of the background.
Awesome. Okay, well, we moved here in 2013, and that's when I met you.
Yep.
We were sent here by our swim coach. We knew we needed a dry land, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but workout, and you came right up on the feeler, and we came here, and so we've been coming here ever since. We love it here. And it's fun because I know you train a lot of kids, but your adult program is amazing too. And I know we're not here to talk about that, but so I have 3 sons. They're all about a little bit more than a year apart. And at one point, all 3 were swimming. The middle one decided to stop swimming right before middle school. And started playing basketball. And all 3 were pretty good swimmers, but our oldest Sean, really stood out a lot. And we were swimming in El Paso, and it's an amazing community. It was a great swim team. But he kind of peaked out a little bit, and I felt like he had hit a plateau when he and we felt like he was at a point where he should be rocketing straight up. And in fact, that turned out to be true. It was we were very lucky. And so it took a lot of family discussion. We talked to a lot of different people about moving to a city where swimming had a bigger presence. It wasn't that we were unhappy with our swim coaches or the program. We just needed that edge. And lots of tears and laughing and visiting with people, and we decided to come to the Austin area because swimming here is huge. So we made the move.
So before we get to that, real fast, I just had a thought about what were some of the signs. I mean, obviously swimming is purely based on speed. Let's just be it's track and water, right? It's very simply, it's just about speed. So kind of what were the signs, I think, that either you saw, his coaches saw? What were some of the things that were like, we're capable of more, or he's capable of more, but what is, how do you see that, I guess? How does a parent see that?
Part of it was taking off my here and now glasses and putting on lenses, trying to look into the future. And I knew as Sean was emerging as a pretty good young teen swimmer, and he was swimming at the level of high school and even college swimmers at that point.
At a younger age.
Where is this going to take us? And what do you want to do, Sean? And Sean knew he wanted to swim in college. And there really hadn't been a lot of swimmers going to Division I programs in El Paso. There was none of that. And I started to talk about older kids' parents about recruiting. How do they hear about little old so-and-so in El Paso? And there really wasn't much of that. And so we knew, Sean was getting a little bit faster every time he swam. But we didn't want him to just hit a wall and stop gaining that. Because as you get older, the competition gets more stiff and it becomes more difficult. So it was really looking at college swimming that made us go, it might be time. And there was an actual moment when one of Sean's coaches, we were at a state meet, 14 and under state meet, and Sean was nearing the top age group there, and he swam a junior national time, a time that would have qualified him to swim at a national meet.
And he would, what age would he?
He was 12. And I was so excited because a friend of mine texted me and said, that's a junior national cut. That's a junior national time. And I went up to coach and I said, hey, oh my gosh. And I was told, no, that's not. Don't be ridiculous. He's not that fast. And I went and I did my own research, and sure enough, it was a junior national cut.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, while the coach was perfect for what we had in El Paso,
Sure.
there was not a lot of forward
Gotcha.
thinking going on. And that was like hammer in the coffin, nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
We really need to do this.
So for the non-swim parents out there, like a junior national cut is basically like, at what age is the average high-level swimmer hitting that kind of time?
16 to 18.
Yeah, so he's like 4 to 6 years ahead of the curve.
He was at that point, correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
And of course, everybody catches up.
Naturally. Yeah.
Right, but at that time, it was earth-shattering.
But to hit that kind of time that early, I would think that's a massive alarm bell of like, we got something on our hands here that we need to potentially look at fostering some more energy towards, some more resource towards maybe, because, and especially if he is massively enjoying it, right? It's like he's driving that bus, he wants to do it. Like that's that's a big thing.
And he had dreams.
Okay.
And it just didn't seem like the ceiling was high enough on the dreams where we were.
Gotcha.
And it was interesting. There were a lot of people who tried to talk us out of it. And I'm not talking just people in El Paso who just wanted us to stay.
Sure.
A sports writer who is a national sports writer called me. And we had a 2-hour phone conversation. And she said, do not move your entire family just for your one athlete.
One son,
and she then even sent Missy Franklin, the backstroke Olympian, had Missy Franklin's parents call me.
Okay.
And that's how I got to know Missy Franklin's family.
Yeah.
Because they called me and they had made a move that they were kind of sorry that they had made.
Gotcha.
And they said the same thing. Don't, if he's going to be good enough, he will be discovered where he is. And so that, it was interesting because that, we were charging ahead. Let's go, let's do this.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden these big people in the world of swimming were like, no.
Take a breath,
We ended up doing it. And it was the best thing we could have done for our family.
Yeah. You guys end up here. That was 2011, 2012?
13.
Was it 13?
It might have been 12, but yes.
I literally went back to track back to like all of the attendance from training sessions we've done, and I couldn't get far enough back. So I was trying to find, I know we've been together for literally almost 10 years, but I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it.
Happy anniversary.
I know, right? I think you have done with me over 900 training sessions since we started.
No way. See?
I can't, So I can't fathom what the boys did, but
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we end up here. How did you find? You guys ended up at nitro swimming, right? How did you find nitro swimming? How did that angle? Like, did you speak to the coaches, the owners? How did you get there?
We went and visited. We visited several swim clubs in this area.
Okay.
We knew we wanted to stay in Texas.
Yeah.
I loved Austin, coming here for the state meets. We had been coming for years, so we were already familiar with the terrain and the weather, the climate, the people of Austin. We knew we loved it here, and so we did. We just, my husband and I made a business trip out of it, and we flew out here, got a hotel, got a realtor, and I basically gave her the 2 different pools that when we finally settled on a pool, and I said I want to be within a 5-mile radius of this pool or this pool. Yeah. And that's how we bought our house. Because as you know, when you've got children who are in athletics, there's a lot of driving. Yep. Morning, evening, weekends. Yes. So we did that. But we visited and we interviewed coaches. We talked about philosophies. My biggest thing was watching how much Sean and my other 2, Ryan and Jack, how much they enjoyed youth sports, how much fun they were having. I didn't want that to go away. Yeah, sure. I wanted Sean to be able to pursue his goals of swimming Division I, college, NCAA Division I, but they were having so much fun at meets. They had this family, an extended family every time we went to a swim meet, and we ended up settling on nitro swimming here in Austin, and it was amazing. We were so blessed to find it, and then of course your place was 2 doors down. Yeah, at the time. And we said, okay, well and Sean had already been doing a dry land program. Sean in El Paso had been doing weight training, but of course modified weight training as a 12-year-old.
12-year-old, sure.
But he was also even doing some ballet classes to help with his core strength.
I was going to ask about that, like, because I know that obviously Ryan swam, but then ended up playing basketball.
Yes.
Jack's a swimmer and was swimming through high school and the college as well. Did Sean ever do anything, or outside of swim from a organized standpoint? Like, because I know, it's really, really kind of important at that younger levels where you have a lot of people and experts talking about multi-sports, training across genres so that you don't just end up pigeonholed into one thing and your body adjusts. So
yes.
Did he have any kind of participation in other sports outside of swimming?
He tried Little League.
Okay.
Ryan and Sean tried Little League,
yeah.
and they ended up playing with the grass in the outfield, looking for ladybugs.
Love it.
Ryan played basketball. Jack also played basketball.
Okay.
And Jack was good at jazz hands. I mean,
nice.
it was really funny to watch these kids who were so natural in the water.
Yeah.
Try these land sports, but they tried them. And Ryan even ran track.
Okay.
At the middle school level.
Okay.
So yes, we did tinker.
Yeah, you did.
We did go across.
Yeah.
Sean was super driven with swimming though, and once he started with swimming, he had these blinders on.
Yeah.
Would I do it differently? Maybe.
Sure.
Might have I? But he did do ballet for a while to work on his core strength.
That's amazing. I don't
he
think
loved
I've
that.
known that.
Do you know what?
I don't think I knew that for over almost 10 years. I don't think I knew that.
I will tell you what he loved the most about it.
Yeah.
In this big ballet group, there were only 2 little boys.
Yeah.
And he was surrounded by all these girls, and he got all this girl attention. He thought he was in heaven. And he had all these big crushes. It was the funniest thing, but yes, Sean did ballet.
That's hilarious.
A little bit.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
So then I'll pick it up a little bit, I think. So I had been working with athletes in the area and with nitro swimming for, I'd say 3 or 4 years prior to this, and I had known and do know their former head swim coach who ended up being Sean's coach, and he was very happy with our working relationship. So it seems like that's basically it. We ended up having this mutually in common, coach that he ended up being Sean's coach. He actually trusted me. Coach O'Brien trusted me to work with his swimmers, and so all of a sudden it becomes you're going to be here, and you're this quality caliber already at 14, 15 years old. You're going to need this as well. Right, so then we end up meeting each other for strength training.
Strength training, yeah, that's a better than weight training.
Sure.
And it's interesting. That would be some advice that I would give to parents of athletes: is really listen to your coaches.
Yeah,
they know best.
Yeah,
I never would have even thought of putting Sean in ballet.
Yeah,
a swim coach recommended it. I never would have thought of putting Sean in strength training.
Yeah.
But the coach directed us that way.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think that's really important for when you buy into a club, a program, a sport, and you find a coach that you trust. I mean, you're trusting them with your most valuable possession.
Yeah.
Well, let them do their job. Let them be a coach.
Sure.
I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about strength training, so I'm going to let you do it.
Yeah.
And if the swim coach recommends you, well, then that's great for me. So trust is huge, I think, in developing athletes.
Yeah, from my end, that's very helpful.
I'm sure.
It's very helpful from my end.
Well, because I'm sure you've had parents, standing at the door kind of wanting to micromanage and watch, and it's like it makes the kid uncomfortable, it makes you uncomfortable, and really, is it beneficial? No. You're not able to do your thing.
Absolutely. So, I guess you're here, at that point, you're now here, and also you're now swimming with Nitro, you're swimming with Coach O'Brien. Talk me through kind of some of that time frame from, I guess, a day-to-day, right? Let's kind of delve into day-to-day a little bit. Like, what is it like managing, so swim practices are mornings and afternoons, right?
Correct.
Not every day, but I think it was at least 2 to 3 days a week was double practices, right? We're talking as early as 5:30 in the morning, right? 5:15 in the morning, and then again at night after school until 7:30 sometimes, probably 8 o'clock. Talk me through your day, and then again, not just Sean, but we have Jack doing that as well because he's swimming, and Ryan's participating in sports as well. So talk me through kind of how do we manage the carpool, the breakfasts, the lunches, just the day to day. Give me a day to day.
Do you have a couple hours?
Yeah, give me like a singular day, like in a life day.
It was I look back at that age when the kids were like between 8 and 18. A blur, but so much fun. And I had to be super organized, and they had to be super organized.
Absolutely.
And I think youth athletes are some of the most organized people I've ever met. And my background is I'm a teacher.
Okay.
And if I can get a student in there that knows how to organize their time, knows how to organize their thought processes, they're going to shine.
Yes.
And so I think youth sports is really good for kids in that area. But yes, we would lots and lots of food prep. Lots and lots of Sunday was cooking day.
Fan of that. Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I would cook on Sunday. And you know, if it was NFL season, I'd just turn on the NFL games and I would prep, and I'd have a big pan of lasagna, and I'd have some sort of pasta with a pesto sauce, and then I'd prep the meatloaf, and I'd prep all the veggies, and you know, and you're trying to get them to eat a lot of vegetables, because of course now, especially when they hit middle school, nutrition becomes really big.
Couldn't agree more.
And so that was another thing. We listened to our coach, and we actually got a nutritionist.
Oh wow, okay.
And she made Sean keep a food diary for a couple weeks, and then she looked at it and said, you know, get rid of these things and add more of this.
Absolutely.
And it's one thing when mom's putting a plate of broccoli on the table, but if a nutritionist said, I need you to eat 3 times as many greens, all of a sudden they're like, oh, better eat that broccoli.
Exactly.
So that helped a lot. But yes, lots of food prep. Our day would start at about 4:30, and we would just pile in the car. I would have breakfast tacos ready to go. They never liked to eat heavily before, but they'd always have a little bit of something just to fuel bodies. We filled up water bottles the night before, so all they had to do was grab
and go.
The equipment bag was laid out, the school outfit was laid out, and so was the swim outfit.
The night before.
It looked ridiculous. If you looked around our house, there were piles of everything, but they were just able to grab and go.
It just reduces stress, right?
It
does.
For
them and for you, because everything is laid out the night before. It's funny, that's how I live my personal life, because I go to bed with my clothes in the bathroom already ready to go for the next day, and breakfast on the deck ready to go.
I still do it too.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of the meal prep, because it just takes a lot of the guesswork out of the scenario, takes a lot of the stress out of it, and you become automated to where now you can actually put your energy and focus towards what you need to, and then your day is just much more easy.
Right.
Much more easy to manage.
Right, and then you jump in the car, and that was drive time. I found very valuable for extracting information, because you know, every kid famously, you know, how was your school day? Fine.
Yeah.
What did you learn? Nothing. Well, car time is a really good time, valuable time to extract all that information from them. But we also would use commute time to practice quizzing on spelling tests, getting ready for a science test, you know, quizzing on that. So there was lots of conversation in the car. I didn't just put on a DVD or turn on the music. That was family time.
Engagement, right? That was engagement.
So I would drop them off at the pool, and I would usually at that point go and work out. That was my time. And of course, at this point when we moved here, Ryan had switched to basketball. So now I'm managing 2 swimmers and 1 basketball player, and he was playing club ball as well as school ball. So it was a lot of management, time management.
Calendars were massive. Having a calendar of where everybody is at one time.
And who had competitions when, and so my husband and I would divide and conquer. Okay, you're going to the swim meet this weekend, and I'm, you know, there were weekends when one car would be headed south to San Antonio and the other car would be headed north to Dallas. And, you know, I'm going to the swim meet, you're going basketball, and then we would switch so that we made sure there was equal representation. But it was just a lot of organization. I'd pick them up from practice. I'd have their breakfast tacos in the car. They would eat their breakfast tacos and their chocolate milk, and then we would go to school, drop them off. They would do their thing. They would come home, and that was another thing, the organization and the discipline. Homework. Schools are kind of backing away from homework now, but back in the day, there was a lot more homework, and so that we had these, I don't know what they call them. They were like clipboards with bean bags under them, so they could put them on their lap.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
They literally did homework in the car on the way to the next practice. And then they would practice. We would come home. The prepped dinner was heating up. And we would eat, do a little bit more homework, and bathe and get ready for the. So it was just rigorous organization.
And wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. Wash.
Mm-hmm. But it was fun.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of crazy, but I would not replace those years for anything.
I think you have to be okay with being a little type A in that scenario, because it's going to be much harder to be successful if there's not a system in place, right?
Yep.
Like to have systems obviously works. Businesses have systems. You guys have to have systems too.
Yeah.
So from that time frame, let's talk about, like, I guess, performances, successes. Like what were you seeing? You made the move, right? Because you wanted a higher ceiling potential. What were you seeing? How did you see it? Did you see that with him? I know you did, obviously, but like, talk to me a little bit about some of the best performances you saw, some of like the accolades or success that he had at that time frame. I know there were trips abroad, right, because he was making some fairly high level teams, but talk a little bit about like some of the high points, right? Some of the successes, and then we can maybe talk about low points later as well.
Okay, well, the move to the Austin area became was a success, apparently a success very early, because his swimming just skyrocketed. It was like he shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And he made the U.S. national team, I believe, when he was 16.
Yeah, it was either 15 or 16.
15 or 16,
yeah,
and so here he is.
I have the record still, yeah.
Yeah, and he was setting national age group records. He was the junior national that we talked about earlier, getting junior national cuts. He not only was going to the junior national meets immediately, but he was winning at them. He was winning high point at those meets, so which meant he was essentially like the swimmer of the meet, where he would get the most points from winning the most. And so he was just...
He was crushing it.
He was crushing it. And he, his first trip abroad, I can't remember, but he's been to Junior Worlds a couple times. He went to Junior Pan Pacific.
I remember that.
Pan Pacs a couple times. He's been to Worlds since then. Of course, that was later on. But yeah, he's been Abu Dhabi, Singapore, Tokyo, Beijing.
I remember hearing the stories back then and just going, he'd be working out with me, and then like 2 days later he'd be flying off.
I'll never forget, we went to the Austin airport, and he was, I think, a junior in high school, and he was going to Tokyo. And I didn't realize that the name of the Tokyo airport was Narita. And the lady looks at his, the lady at the check-in, United check-in counter is, "Oh, Narita, huh?" And I'm like, "Narita?" And she goes, "Tokyo." And I was like, "Yeah, he's going to Tokyo." And of course, I've got tears in my eyes because my boy's leaving.
Going to Tokyo.
And she actually scolded me. She's like, "And where's your ticket? Like, I'm ready to check you in." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going." And this ticket agent was like, she lost her mind. She's like, "You're sending your child to Tokyo and you're not going to Narita? And you're not going?" And I was like, no. But he was in the care of USA Swimming. But anyway, that was one of those moments where I was like, wow, this is really big. This is big.
Like the fact that someone else made it a point of saying, wait, shouldn't you be traveling with your son? He's traveling across the world, and you're not going with him, and he's only 15, 16, whatever. It
was crazy. And that was really eye-opening. Like, oh, okay. And it was a blessing. And the cool thing about Sean, his personality, he has never once taken for granted how blessed he is to be in this sport, to be succeeding as he has. And he's so gracious and so thankful. And I don't know where that comes from. That's not like something you teach. That's not something that you model. He just is. He's very gracious and humble and thankful. And so it's been kind of fun to watch him on this journey.
From my perspective as well. There was always a massive sense of, even from day one, without even knowing who I was, some random person I got shown to go work out with, always massively respectful, to where I just felt like it was always easy. He was always easy to work with. Right?
Thank you. So that's cool. It's nice to hear that as a mama.
Absolutely.
Right?
He was always absolutely I always thought I didn't necessarily have to coach him. There are some kids you have to coach and have to actually kind of energize and get through, or manage a little bit more. Like, realistically, there was a lot more managing and not a lot less coaching. Like, he just kind of, everything flowed really easily. So
thank you.
So that's very welcome. And some of the biggest, like, exciting time for me with that situation at that time was clearly trials, right? It was clearly like Olympic trials. So let's talk about that, because
we brought you along.
That's
Coach Tim
amazing,
came
right?
with us.
Like the fact, like that's kind of a peak in my head of like almost my professional career at this point is having, and the great thing was, obviously it's Sean, it's probably like another half a dozen kids that we were all working with at that time in that program that got to go, and I'm sitting there getting to go to Olympic trials with kids that I've been training for years in some cases. Right?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's amazing. So let's speak to that. That in my opinion is a high point. Absolutely, right?
Well, which is funny because that was probably, interestingly enough, a low point for
say,
Sean.
There's a juxtaposition there we can go into a little bit.
Yeah. So trials came up, and of course Sean, I think, had his first Olympic trials cut a 14 or something. So he was headed that way, and it's not unusual when you go to trials, as you probably remember. There are
young kids. There are some young kids.
Some
40,
sure. And it's and everybody kind of goes, what? And then they get in and they swim, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Trials is amazing because it is the most intense swim meet I've ever been to, and I've heard in the world.
Yeah.
Coach Tim O'Brien, who was Sean's swim coach, did a lot of psychological prep with the kids before Olympic trials.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to lunch one day, and we were visiting with Sean, Tim, and me, and Tim was trying to prep Sean. He said, Sean, you are going to see grown men on their knees sobbing at this meet. And it
culmination of a life's journey to get to a point.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And the other crazy thing about Olympic trials is the first place in any event is guaranteed a spot to the Olympics.
Yeah.
The second place is pretty much guaranteed, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so anybody after second place, if you're in third place at Olympic trials,
yeah.
you're a loser.
Yeah,
I mean, you're like, of course, right? We know they're not.
Of course not. Yeah, but like you're not making the team. Yeah.
And so Sean got there, and I mean, he did really well. He broke a world. Was it a junior world record?
I think that's right. Yeah.
He broke a junior world record with his time.
Yeah.
And he ended up in fourth. And like I just said, in his eyes, he was a loser.
Yeah.
So that meet was incredibly hard for him. For me, I was just like, oh, I can't believe we're here. And I was, starstruck over all the, it was, Michael Phelps was there. And,
it's 4 a.m. His 4 a.m. like prelim wasn't Phelps and Lochte. Yeah, Phelps and Lochte were in the prelim or I forget which one it was. All I remember was he's in the same pool, the same time as Phelps and Lochte for the 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in the stands after.
That's my kid.
Yeah, I'm like, that's insane right there. This is the world that I'm like just dipping my toe in really quickly right now, but it was so amazing.
It was so much fun to have you there.
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh yeah, driving up with the fam. Yeah.
Road trip, Coach Tim.
Road tripping it. That was a long road trip.
By the way, I flew.
Yes,
I didn't take the long road trip. No. I'll meet you there.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, it was really special. And so I have all these great memories from that meet, and Sean does not.
Yeah.
It was really rough.
Yeah.
And I did not appreciate until many years later how hard it hit him and how hard it was for him to bounce back from that and recover. I really think, and I think it was a foible of mine, should I have been more cognizant of it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he really thought he was going to make the team at 16, and when he got fourth, amazing.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't for him.
Yeah.
And now he's okay with it.
Yeah.
Now he looks back and says, "Oh, that was awesome."
Yeah.
But,
so now, obviously, he's finishing up. He got a scholarship to Cal. Swimming at Cal. He took his fifth. Is it fifth year?
He's taken a super senior year because of COVID.
Yep.
The NCAA blessed them with a real senior year, which really was neat because that was emotionally. As an educator, I'm seeing the taxing effect that COVID has had on pre-Kers, kinder first, and it's all the way up through these college kids. And thankfully, they're doing a super senior year.
So, and I should have touched on this before, and it's actually a decent little segue to some of the things that I know that a lot of our parents are dealing with. But when he was swimming in his high school years, before getting the scholarship, before everything like that, Did he swim? He didn't swim high school, did he?
No.
So we have a lot of athletes, I think, in this facility that come through that actually they're competing in both, that have to manage that. I think Jack did 1 year, right? Managed
my youngest did 1 year, yes.
High school and club at the same time. Let's segue real briefly over to that and just kind of touch on like the balance, I think, between having to manage one program and maybe the other, how we're making sure that we're honoring these people, but yet we also kind of want to honor these people at the same time. Coaching styles, coaching levels, things of that nature. Like, how do you think, was that a challenge, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
It was a huge challenge. Sean actually wanted to swim high school.
That's right, yeah.
And the high school that he attended as a freshman was Round Rock High School, and the coach had a very strict policy that you had to be at every practice.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it.
Sure.
Sean was on this trajectory, and at this point he's being invited to international swim meets.
Yeah.
And so as much as he wanted to, we couldn't do it.
Because we do it, yeah.
But then our youngest, Jack, did swim, like you said, high school and club swimming, and that was hard too, because you've got one coach telling you to work out one way, and to swim that your stroke needs to be fixed this way, and then another coach telling you do it this way, and it can be very confusing to the kids.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I think, and maybe it's just in retrospect, it seems like most coaches, the friends that I have whose kids are still at the high school level, coaches are almost a little bit more appreciative and their understanding of, and I think it's because we have so many amazing athletes coming up in this area.
Yes, sure.
And so definitely. I think the coaches have a little bit more awareness of, okay, this kid is really, really good, and he might need to miss my 3-time-a-week high school practice because what he's getting over there is going to help my team.
Again, like more management than coaching, right? Like being able to do a little bit of both, to where I've got to coach these kids who aren't necessarily getting 5, 6, 7 practices a week somewhere else, but then I'm going to, I coach these, but then I'll manage the ones that are coming in 2 to 3 times a week just to be on the team and to contribute, right? They want to be on the team, they want to contribute, but asking them to double up every single day is just ridiculous.
Well, and it hurts their bodies, and it ends up hurting both teams.
Yeah.
Jack's high school experience was much better.
Yeah.
The coach did that.
Yeah.
He said, I respect the fact that you're cracking your butts over at the club team.
Yeah.
But he wanted them there.
Yes. Yeah.
Just for teamwork and but yes, he definitely and so that was a much better experience for Jack, and he was able to do the high school swimming. Yeah.
What about so a big topic that I deal with here, and a lot of it's post injury would be injuries, right? Like in this room, I typically focus more on getting kids back into the pool, getting kids back onto the field. They're coming to me after PT, after they do therapy, and they're getting a little bit of return to sport training, whether it be speed and agility or strength training. How about injuries for you guys? I don't remember Sean having anything significant, but talk to me a little bit, like Ryan, Jack, like, did we deal with injuries?
Yes, well, especially Ryan, who was playing basketball.
Yep.
And I think he broke just about every bone in his body at some point. It was, ankles and wrists and thumbs, and he even had to have his whole wrist rebuilt.
Yeah.
But that strength training that he got here was really helpful because he was coming, like you said, straight from physical therapy, and he was able to build back up as opposed to just jump right back out on the hardwood and grind.
Yep.
And I think that helped him a lot especially with his ankle injuries.
Yeah.
And it was really fun for him too, because I know at the time, one of your coaches that you had working here was a basketball guy himself, and so Ryan really related to him, and so it was just really comfortable for Ryan, and a really good place where he felt good about his progress, because it's very frustrating trying to come back from an injury.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that was a positive thing.
Yeah.
But broken bones with Ryan in basketball. Jack had some persistent shoulder, and that was hard because he had these stretches, which he still does to this day, even though he's done swimming.
Yeah.
But I think the benefit of doing strength training for Jack was it was routine. those shoulder mobility became something. Finally, it kind of clicked in his head. I have to do this if I'm going to swim.
Yeah.
I have to do this if I'm going to be able to move my shoulder.
Yeah.
And so the bands and the seeming little things became really big to him. And like I said, he still does his foam rolling and he still does his bands, and he's got, when he's home from college, there's always bands hanging all over all the different chairs, and there's foam rollers in every room because he still does it.
It's funny because you said little things, and that's something that I try to get across to all of the athletes and the adults clients as well. Like, it's always about the little things. It's not just the big goal at the end of it. What are you doing incrementally day to day to day to get to that big goal? You don't really get to decide your future. You decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. So if you want that bigger thing down the road, more often than not, it's just day to day. What are you doing to get a little bit better and a little bit better? And that's PT and things like that, and strength training kind of work that way. It's literally just day to day.
Well, and that's life.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you for instilling that in my children, because
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I should be interviewing you.
Absolutely. So let's kind of start to put a bow on it a little bit.
Okay.
With I don't know, like looking back on experience with youth sports, is there anything you would change, whether it would be, I don't think you want to change the move, otherwise we wouldn't be in this room together, right? But like from a culture standpoint, a coaching standpoint, the difficulty with X, Y, or Z, anything you would change with, not even just swimming, you can speak to swimming, but even like youth sports in general, because there's a lot of positives, there's negatives as well. So what kind of stands out to you as something that you would like to see improved upon or maybe changed in any way? It's kind of a big,
that is big
universe question, right?
The thing that popped into my head was if your child says they're done, believe them.
They're done.
When Ryan decided to stop swimming and go into basketball, it probably dragged on a year longer than it should have.
Okay.
Because I saw this potential. He was actually a better swimmer than Sean was.
Got it.
And I saw this potential in him, and he was done.
Yeah.
He used to tell me, every time I get on the block, Mom, it feels like the whole pool is staring at me. And that made him very uncomfortable.
Sure.
And in hindsight, what I would change about the whole youth sports maybe is the intensity and and my whole thing was, okay, you've started this season, you have to finish it. You've committed.
Yeah, really committed.
And I made him finish, and then anyway, I just kind of wish that I had read the room a little bit better.
Sure. Okay.
So I might change that a little bit.
Okay.
I think the biggest benefit of youth sports is the fun. When you speak to Sean or Ryan or Jack, and you ask, what are your favorite moments, your favorite memories? It's not, I got to go to Singapore and I broke a world. No, it's none of that. Yeah. It's, oh my gosh, we had so much fun at that meet in Arizona.
Yeah.
And I was with so-and-so and so, and oh my God, and those are still my best friends. And even when they were little, we used to go to these weekend-long meets, and we would just take board games, and there would be these swimmers just sprawled out all over the pool deck playing board games. And we still talk to those families and those kids, and really special. And the basketball tournaments, oh my gosh, those were fun.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, Ryan was remembering a big pillow fight his basketball team had in one of the hotel rooms. I think they felt like rock stars, like they were trashing the room or whatever. But
he's 22 and he's remembering that.
It's very special. So fun.
That's cool.
Fun.
That's cool.
And it helps inspire organized and an organized mindset. A growth mindset as far as future development. And so I love youth sports for that.
What's the last thing? What's the, I guess, and we can kind of dovetail with what you just said there, biggest piece of advice, I guess. And we kind of spoke to it a little bit earlier, but what would you have a parent in front of you who has two kids that are, like 5th, 6th grade, they're still playing multiple sports, one of them maybe showing some talent, and one of them specifically, right? And what would you say to that person that could be a big takeaway? Right? What's the biggest piece of, I guess, of advice that you would give them?
Let them have fun.
Yeah.
Let them be kids.
Yeah.
Don't make them do. I don't care how much potential you see in them, you know.
Absolutely. Like they have to drive the bus themselves.
Yeah.
I feel blessed in this room where that everyone that walks into this room, be it a kid or an adult, pretty much wants to be here. Like the kids may be a little intimidated, but after a session or two, they really enjoy it, and especially the older ones, they want to be here, and the Norman's being forced to be here.
That's really special.
Yeah.
Well, and the one other thing, and I know we might be going long here, the fact that, like when my kids were coming to you, if they couldn't make it, it was a test the next day or they weren't feeling well, you always insisted that they communicate that with you too. That's another bit of advice I would give to parents is let your kids drive the bus. Let your kids manage, let your kids set up their own schedule. If they don't want to do homework in the car while you're driving from school to practice, say, okay, when are you going to do it? Let's come up and let them be in charge of that, because it pays off so much.
It's a life skill.
Yeah.
That's a life skill. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This was so much fun, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all joining us. Yeah, definitely. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
Appreciate it. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, y'all take care.